Well, good morning, Savannah, Georgia. Good morning. This is a beautiful, sunshiny morning that the Lord has sent our way. This morning, we're going to talk briefly with Dr. Robert Bryant, and then we're going to have Ms. Pat Harris come on board with us. We've got several topics we're going to talk about this morning, but we're going to bring you some information this morning. Dr. Bryant, good morning to you. Introduce yourself to these fine folk in Savannah, Georgia.
Sure. Good morning. You see, I'm representing one of our well-known historically black colleges, FAMU. So, shout out to our FAMU folks in Savannah. But I'm Dr. Robert Bryan. I am actually running for local office here in the city of Savannah for the fifth district alderman seat. But for many years, I've been involved with public leadership and service. You know, you hear the word politician, but I prefer public leadership. But my ties to voting date back to many years ago. I have a mother and father both who have always been very staunch people about education and voting. And I'm also with Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, and one of our national programs is a voteless people, is a hopeless people. So, you know, I've been involved with voting and understanding the importance of voting, and we can talk more about that as we go through the broadcast. One of the things I do want to mention before I shift over is the idea of how voting impacts everything in your life. You know, when I ran with Daniel Blackman alongside Senator Alsop from Senator Warnock, when I ran for the Public Service Commission, we talked about light bills and how small of that can be tied to an election. And because people didn't take it seriously, you have seen your light bill go up about an additional $30 in the last couple of years. So voting is important. It's attached to everything that's involved in your life.
Well, I tell you, it looks like it's going to continue to go up.
Yeah.
And we have to have somebody in that office. We have to put somebody in that office in order to put some control underneath it. You know, we have our area is poverty stricken.
Yes.
And good morning to you, Miss Pat Harris. Uh,
Good morning.
yeah, our area is so poverty stricken. We can't
Yeah.
stand a raise in the electric bills anymore. We can't we can't actually uh, stand a raise in nothing because our people are so in such a desperate shape. But anyway, let's let Miss Harris, Dr. Harris, introduce herself this morning with that pretty smile she got.
Oh, wow. I feel honored and privileged to be here with you this morning. I'm Pat Harris, 5th District Coalition President, President of Poplar Place Neighborhood Association, and so many other things. So, good morning.
Good morning to you.
And if
Uh,
I may, Dr. Irwin, just to give her a fair shot, uh, Dr. Harris is involved with voting in so many ways. I know she mentioned the Fifth District Coalition, but Dr. Harris, I know you're involved with the committee for your sorority, so I got a chance to do that. I just want to be fair,
yeah,
for
she
that.
part of
Absolutely.
that Divine Nine group,
Yeah.
the big folk. Tell us a little bit about that, though, Miss Dr. Harris. Tell us a little bit about the Divine Nine in your
Well,
sorority.
I can't really go into details about it because I'm not allowed to, but everybody knows about the Divine Nine, the mega group of sororities and fraternities who um, are instrumental in social action. And that is a large part of what we do. I am not the president, so I cannot speak for our chapter. That is what I meant. Even though I chair our social action team, I can tell you that the Divine Nine is up and running, and we hope to um, be the organizations who are typically engaged in the things that are important to our districts, our state, our cities, our country. So that is where we are at this point, engaged.
Thank you very much for that.
Welcome.
Uh, now, one of the things that I wanted to reiterate on the program this morning, voter registration deadline was October the 10th for the November election. That does not stop people from registering to vote. But there is something that people don't seem to understand, and that is that although you got to vote for on November the 7th, all registrations that change address, change names, or make other changes, they will not affect this election. You have to go right the way. If you move, you have to go back to where you're supposed to have voted at before you move, before October the 10th. So people need to understand that when they go to go to the voting polls, they need to know where they're going at. So that's something that we need to keep up with and make sure that they understand it. If you move between October 10th and November 7th, you go back to the poll that you were supposed to vote to on November the 10th. So, any statements on that? Either one of the two of y'all.
Well, I think as you were talking about that, Mr. Irwin, you know, I really think we're at a place with all this technology and all these advanced ways of being that voter registration should be tied to your driver's license. So when you go to get a driver's license or an ID, you should automatically be registered to vote. Now, let's say you never get one of those pieces of identification, then we can get you registered. But we have a very antiquated way of doing things, and it's all about voter suppression. And I think when people understand not only the history of voting, but the fact that if a person is willing to put a lot of work in suppressing your voice, then it has to be important. If I'm trying to work hard to make sure you don't have a voice or something, then something must be there. So I just wish we would take over, Congress and the Senate, once they ever find a Speaker of the House, can really look at making voter registration more of a mandate, not a choice. If that makes sense.
All right. And like you say, it's voter suppression, but if you move and you go to the area where you stayed, then they tell you got to go back. A lot of people that discourages a lot of people, and that's what it is designed for. But we have to let them know before time, so that they can be prepared to go back to where they come from, so they can where they move from, not come from, but where they move from,
Right.
in order to cast their ballot and let their vote and let their voice be heard. Dr. Harris, you're on mute, Doc. No, ma'am, you're still on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. You got that now. Let's try it now. No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
You might you might have to go out and come back in. Yeah, just
Yeah, you
log
can
out
go
and
back
come back in
and come
on
back
the
in.
link. Yeah, just get out of that and just hit the link again. But what was your question again, Mr. Irwin?
Oh no, you answered the question.
Okay,
Um,
so
we'll talk about something else till Dr. Harris get in. We were talking earlier though, Dr. Bryant. You
mm,
spoke about you went out to the Carpenters Union. Uh, A. Philip Randolph has a program that we call Building Futures.
mm,
We take kids that are coming out, graduating from high school, that's not going to college, and they know they're not going. They know they're not college material. We try to put them in apprentice programs,
right,
and you
right,
got a
right.
first-hand look yesterday at some of the stuff at one of the programs. So why don't you tell us about that while we're waiting on this area?
Well, and I'm two things. I want to go back a moment. I want to do both questions because as I sit, I think about stuff. I'm always thinking. People say, "Why do you move so fast?" I'm literally always processing information. But I want to go back to why it's important to vote, and I'm going to be going to your next question. If let's go back to when people were stolen from their native land and brought to America, and then you have this system called slavery, and we oppress people, and we use the Bible to justify the stupidness. And so, if we didn't have the ability to vote, where would we be? Would we even have an A. Philip Randolph organization? Would we even have black churches? Would we even have youth care daycare centers? Would we even have equal employment? Would we even have what you call affirmative action? None of that would exist if voting didn't come about. And so we talk now about these apprenticeship programs and opportunities for the youth. If voting didn't exist, then our children would be out here picking cotton and doing free labor. And so that's the importance of voting. And I think we miss the sight of that sometimes. We take for granted what we see in front of us. But see, I have my daddy used to grow up in Savannah during segregation. And it's so interesting today that we want to get rid of historic places like the East Side Theater and all of that. My mother and father met at the East Side Theater. But he would always tell me, see, he lived in a Savannah where they literally didn't have shoes to walk to school. He would talk about you couldn't go on Ardsley Park and places like that. You just were not allowed. And how you had to walk from Missouri Avenue maybe 2-3 miles to get to where you're going. So if we didn't have the right to vote, if voting didn't exist, then we wouldn't even have the luxuries we have today. The luxuries. Understand what I'm telling people? The luxuries,
That's
right?
right.
And so we look at things like youth programs, like you mentioned about the apprenticeships. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of going to. Oh man, I'm so fascinated by labor unions. My mama was a teacher, so she was in the Teachers Federation, and Daddy was in the National Association of Letter Carriers. But I never understood the authority and the power and just the sheer gifts of a labor union. I was out there with the local carpenter and mill workers yesterday. Oh my God, let me tell you something. And I mean this when I say it. If I had to start over again, I don't think I would have gone to college. When I learned those folks go out there, get a trade, come out of high school, go get trained. You come out of that system debt free, no student loans, and you are guaranteed pretty much a 6-figure salary job in your early 20s. Who wouldn't take that? versus going to college and likely having $100,000 of debt and getting paid $40,000. So our labor unions are really the answer to a lot of our questions. And it's so interesting that we don't promote that enough. And so one of the things I want to do and see more of is how do we offer our young community, especially our young black and brown children, access to this information, because who wouldn't want to come out debt free automatically banking $100,000 a year? And I'm talking about it's good work. I have one of those fathers like yourself, Mr. Irwin, who was a jack of all trades, who built his own home and was able to wire his own home. But we're not built like I'm not built like that. But to be able to have that skill and to leverage that skill, man, But again, if we didn't have voting, we wouldn't have those opportunities.
That's so true. That's why 8 years ago, when I was the president of the Savannah Regional Central Labor Council, I created that program called Building Futures so that we could get our kids.
Yeah.
We went to Groves and Beach High School, which were the two predominantly uh, poverty-stricken schools in Savannah at the time. And we pulled kids out of there and we put them in the program. Uh, and when we got them in the program, these kids now are well off. They're making big money. We've got kids in Detroit, Seattle, Washington, California. We've got them even over in Montreal that's making big money. They finished the apprentice program, like you said, they're debt free.
Yeah.
The problem is getting them in the program, and now we have to. We're working on a way to get some of these kids who have uh, gone by the wayside early.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to get them get a program started where we can get them into our programs and get them to making a decent living. Because once you pay your debt to society, you should be able to make a living for your family. Dr. Harris, you back with us now?
I think so. Can you hear
Yes,
me?
ma'am. You here? You
Okay,
don't
I'm
know what
back.
happened, but you here.
It's okay. Yeah,
Now,
well, I simply think I am a retired educator, um, 34.5 years. My major was social studies, history, and of course, history is repeating itself, and we're not paying attention. Um, I can remember the time when all high schools had programs for home economics, horticulture, um, working on automobiles, and so many other things. And that was impressive to our children who weren't going to college, because every child is not going to college. And in our city, we have certain schools who are offering certain um, courses in those subjects that I just mentioned. But I think it would behoove us to just think back. Everything in the past is um, not dead or gone. We should realize that a lot of our children are not going to college, and if they're not going to college, we should be providing some training for them to get involved in and get engaged to other things that will benefit them and make them strong supporters of their communities. So we've lost a lot of things. We have gone backwards and not come forward in what we're doing. And it is only hurting our economic system that you are not training kids at early ages where they need to go and what they are going to enjoy doing. While I may have enjoyed doing what I did, teaching, administrating, or whatever, someone else might enjoy working on a car or starting their own um, mechanical shop or their own sewing or something of that nature. So we need to get back to some of the basic things that we've done before.
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that we found out, like Dr. Bryant said earlier, uh, they come out debt free.
Hmm.
A lot of kids go, they say, well, I don't want to go to college, so I'm gonna go to trade school. When they go to trade school, they still come out with a debt because somebody has to pay for the teachers. Uh, we have found that in labor, it has been
Hmm.
our ability to train people and give them the decent training that they need, give them a decent income, but they're certified, and that makes a big difference. They're certified because we have to be all of our training is certified, is certified, and we're certified by the government to do all kind of welding, electrical work, brick mason work, carpentry work. Uh, Dr. Bryant saw some of the work that we do yesterday, and that was just a piece of it. That's just the touch of the tip of the iceberg. When you talk about welding and electrical work, I mean, these kids go up there and they can get in there and they can wire uh, the biggest building in the world and get it done.
Yeah.
We have guys that do ironwork. Those are the guys that lay the foundation for the big buildings. They get up there on those iron girds and they go up many
Hmm.
feet up in the air to lay it. But these kids are getting paid.
Yeah.
But what we need to do, we have to be able to get into the
Yes.
school system at an early age because one thing that I found out in third grade, they start labeling our kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
In the third grade, they start labeling them prison bound. If we could get to those kids and start changing those kids' minds and turning those kids' minds around, I think that we can make a big difference in that prison system because they have something to look forward to and not stand and look at what they see somebody else doing just because they see a big wad of money. They wants to impress them. No, they can make their money and impress somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. One of the things, we think about voting and all you just said, you got to think about let's use a vehicle, for example, our house. You need a key to get inside that car and a key to crank the car. You need a key to get inside of your house. Voting is that key to access. So you put people, and what's so important about what you said, you got to put the right people in these seats who are going to do the right thing, who are going to promote the program you talked about, who are going to advocate for these young people, who are going to be honest with people. And what we see so often is we put people in these seats and then they become about greed and about self. Um, I'll use this as an example. I'm running for a area where we have over 37% poverty, where the medium income is $27,000 annually. That's crazy. But why hasn't there been programs or a festival or some type of outreach where there's conversations around how do we get ourselves out of this, right? And so I think the labor unions and all of that won't be for everybody, and it won't be the answer to all, but it can be a conversation to be had. But when you don't have the right people in those seats, and this is not just about the fifth district, this is about from the federal level down. When you don't have people in the seats that care enough about doing the right thing, then you get nothing. And I'll use the House of Representatives. Right now they can't figure out a speaker because they're so damn selfish. Excuse my language, but it's people out here hurting, people out here struggling, and y'all are arguing about who can be in power. See, when power gets in the way of progress, we have a problem.
I agree. You know, uh, when you talk about labor, and we may not be able to do it all, but if our city was to employ labor more in what they do, I can just about guarantee you that labor would step up and help with some of these projects that we have. But there's no we're not, that labor is not getting any funding from this from our locality to do anything with.
Mhm.
Most of our people have to go other places in order to work. When there's so much construction work right here in the city of Savannah, till I mean, our people would really rather stay home and work, be with their family, than to go to Chicago, go to Seattle, Washington, and have to commute back and forth every 2 months or so, every 6 weeks or so, just to see the family.
Well,
So you
to
know
your point,
that's not.
to your point, Dr. Harris, let me make this point real quick. What bothered me as I got more and more in this election, Mr. Irwin, what bothered me is to know that the city will contract out construction work outside of the city. That was silly. That absolutely makes no sense to me. But if you go to Lee's Gate, I don't know if y'all been to Lee's Gate lately. There is a ridiculous looking gazebo out there. A gazebo. The city brought in the city and the city manager brought in somebody from Atlanta to build a gazebo that looks like a bunch of matchsticks with a roof. And that gazebo cost the citizens of Savannah $200,000. So not only are you being irresponsible with the resources, but you're not giving our laborers the chance at the work. We have a problem.
Well, I'll give you another example. They built the Riverwalk, but the contracted that out. A few years later, it collapsed. Then they have to call on labor to come repair it. Now they done paid double when they could have paid it the first time and got it over with. So trying to be cheap ain't always good. I like to. I forgot to tell everybody we broadcasting too live today from Kim's Cafe. So that's why you keep seeing him try to put his
Yeah,
hand up in the
she's rude as all get out, but I'll go ahead, y'all. So,
air. But yeah, when they're paying double for work that they could have paid one time and got it done right.
but Dr. Harris, Dr. Harris has been in the school system for a while, and she's seen a lot of these young people, advance. I mean, what are your thoughts about it? I mean, about it all. I mean, because I have a huge, and I love your perspective. I have a huge problem with us. There should not be the poverty rate we have in the city of Savannah. After learning about what we have with the labor unions, and we see billions of dollars coming through that port, it baffles me that we have this level of poverty in the city. Oh, I think she's frozen.
Dot Harris, she
Oh,
going
I
out
think
again.
she, yeah, she might come back. You might have to go out and come back in again. Well, Mr. Irvin, what are
There
your
she
thoughts
goes.
about that?
Dot Harris, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, go out and come back in. Oh, there you are.
She trying. Yeah, I
You
think
might,
she.
yeah, you might have to turn off your Wi-Fi button on your phone if you're on your phone.
But you said that you talked about the port and everything else. That all the things that we got going on in the city of Savannah, there should not be a poverty level the way it is. Uh, but due to the
And
fact that
mhm,
we let people come from the
mhm.
outside and come into our area and do the work for us, that's where our poverty level come in.
Well, and I want to tie it back to voting because I really want people to understand this here. Let's say, for example, I'm going to go back to when I ran for Public Service Commission. Daniel Blackman and I talked about Plant Vogel. People have been paying on Plant Vogel. Dr. Harris, you back with us?
I think so.
Okay, let me let you answer that question in case you go back out. But I wanted to get your take on how do we get to this place of poverty when we have leaders and the ports and the labor unions and what's going on? What are your thoughts?
Well, I probably could write a book about it. However, I'm just going to say this. I think that Savannah, Georgia, is a beautiful, beautiful city. Is it the hostess city of the South? Well, in some ways it might be, but in a lot of ways it is not. We have come to a place where the ship is poor. There is a lot of greed, and I'm going to be very you. There's a lot of, and I think that some of our leaders actually take citizens for granted and believing that you can tell them anything and it's okay. Show care about them, that you are fighting for them, that you are listening to them. And that's not what a lot of this administration is about. It's about a lot of greed and the problems that city faces. Those problems may be corrected with residents in the city, not Savannah. Are not for all people. If your words are not government of the people, which ours is not, if your words are
She's still
what's
for the spattering.
out, and I believe that we in I'm stuttering. Is that bad?
Yeah, I think you're in a bad area.
Yeah.
Okay. You can't hear me?
Yeah, you are now. Yeah, you're a little better now.
Maybe so. I probably am. Okay. I just our city is in trouble, and that is take on it. I don't care what anybody says. It's about friends, not about leadership. And place where we have to have leaders who are committed to the entire uh, residents in the city, then we're going no place. And we need to revamp, redirect, reclaim the city's involvement in the lives of their residents who pay taxes, by the way. And sometimes that's overlooked. And we overlook the fact that who in lead about not election, which I'm seeing right now. Some of the trifleness of our elected officials is shameful. And will I apologize for that statement? I will not, because I've watched a lot of things. And it is so uncommon for us to behave in our children like some of us do. When you your position, not greedy in your position, not backdooring, not threatening, not intimidating, and not using what you call uh, your position to annihilate people, then I think our city will be better. But to this end, all that you all have talked about is necessary. because we children and we're training them to take over. That's why young people don't get involved with stuff that we're
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
Want to get involved because they see the message that we're portraying. So until we come to a place where we are going to train how to lead, we've gone notice and see and they can hear and they listen. So I'm just gonna say that I am really disappointed. I'm really disappointed in some of our leadership and how the city has been run. If you look one district after another, they're not all the same. Why not? Why not? Why not? Why not?
Well, and
We all pay taxes.
yeah. If
Robert,
I
let's go to a 2 minute break. Let's go to a
uh
quick break.
okay, and then I'll come back and I need to share something about something she just said. Let
Right.
me get to that. Let me get to where I need to be. Lord, hold on 1 second. So we're gonna do a commercial break and we'll be back momentarily.
Momentarily.
All right, y'all. So I think they stepped away, and but I'll kind of keep going until they come back. Our guest, but we're on vulnerable communities, and so we were talking about the importance of voting. And okay, here we are. Here, you made it back in time. So,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Irwin, I was going to go ahead and keep going with it, but you're talking about the importance of voting, and I think Dr. Harris offered something important, and I forgot my thoughts, so I'll keep going with the one I had earlier. But when Daniel Blackman and I ran for Public Service Commission, we kept telling people about the realities of what was going on. And you had people who were strong Democrats who voted for us, and you had Republicans who were in rural areas of Georgia who were low wealth communities and still voted against their interests. Well, what was so important about it is people don't look at the issues, and what we see locally and around the world is people will vote because of friendships, and he played piano at my church, and he know my cousin, baby mom, and all that stupid stuff. Um, and then you voting against your interests. So let me go back to the PSC thing. So if you're in a low wealth community and you voted for the Republicans who have always been running that show, you voted for big business. And so what happened is you had Plant Vogel. They were building Plant Vogel. Y'all were paying on Plant Vogel before it was even built at a rate of about, I guess it was $8 a month then, in addition to what you're paying. Now, not only did your light bill go up, because every time Georgia Power goes before the commission, they get an approval for a rate hike. So now your rate is up about another $20, and you're paying that now $13 on Plant Vogel because it's completed. You see how that looks? Because you don't take the time to look at the issues and your values, and because you don't take the time to really understand what's going on, and because I'm Republican, so I'm gonna vote Republican, you're voting against your own interests. Let me break it down to a local level. You got people who go to church, our cousins with these folks, and you also have family that are living in poverty. But you will vote for people because, oh, he's done good, or oh, he's been in this seat for 16 years, and all this and that. Y'all will make up these ignorant excuses. But then there's people out here who are hungry. Step away from your relationship and step into the reality of what is now. I cannot sit here and on one hand support what a friend or a cousin or a family member is doing while the other family member or neighbor is hungry or hurting. That's you're voting against your own interests. And so people got to understand that vote is the key to a lot of things. And if you don't have the right people in place, they don't do the right policy, they make the wrong things. And oh, by the way, you know that millage rate that was that impacted your property tax. You have elderly people who are being put out of their homes. Elderly people who built their homes being put out because you have irresponsible people who are voting in. So we got to start looking at what that vote really is, and that vote is about power. And when people, I think Dr. Harris said this, when people don't understand how to use power and privilege for the right thing, and they're in out here taking money from folk, you know, they can tell you something all day long, but they're out here working against your interests.
That's so true. I mean, we get into the part where we just listen at what people say. We let them tell you anything. But what we have to do, we have to learn how to hold them accountable to what is being said. And accountability is going to play a big part in the future of politics, because people are learning now what accountability is all about, instead of letting somebody just tell you, well, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that, and then they come up and not able to do it. They don't do it. They're not able. They don't do it. So therefore, when they talk about accountability, it's going to play a big picture in the future.
Well,
Um,
if I may, I want, because that's a great example, Dr. Harris. I really want you to talk about this, about that fairgrounds, because this is a great example of that, really, where at 10 o'clock in the morning, Dr. Harris was promised one thing. By 4 o'clock, that very same person flipped the script. Oh, Dr. Harris, are you with us? Dr. Harris, did you hear my question?
I'm here. I can hear
Oh,
you.
okay. No, I was saying that Mr. Irwin was talking about holding these politicians accountable, but I was hoping you could share the example, if you were comfortable, around the fairgrounds where at one moment, like 10 o'clock in the morning, you were given a promise that we're going to give you 2 more weeks, and then by 4 o'clock, that whole conversation changed, and that same person violated the, the agreement.
So can you?
Oh, Mr. Irwin, yeah, you might have to get to a different area. It's
Can
kind
you?
of choppy.
Oh wow.
yeah,
Okay.
she has to be in a
Better.
bad area.
That's not bad. I probably am.
Yeah,
Uh, let me see.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
yeah. If you can get by a window, that'll probably be better.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
You can't hear me?
Yeah.
So I'm going outside. Hold on.
Okay. Oh, you say you do one better.
Can you hear me? Can you hear
Oh yeah, most definitely.
now?
Yeah, yeah. Go
Yes,
ahead.
ma'am.
No? Okay.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so the fairgrounds. Wow. You can hear me?
Yeah. So
Hmm.
what the question? Yeah. So what the question basically?
Okay, so the
We were talking
the
about it. Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Doc.
okay, so the fairgrounds debacle. We have been dealing with the fairgrounds for probably 10 years more, over and over and over. It's been one thing after another, one lie after another, one deceit after another. People trying to control the fairgrounds. We did what we were asked to do, and now it seems as though backs are being turned on what wanted to happen, even though We were assured that we were going to have a voice and that our voice was going to be heard and we were going to be listened to. Well, that is not happening. And to this point, we don't know what's going on the fairgrounds because nobody wants to give us that information. We do know that there is um, someone who is manipulating the whole process, and we are supposed to be so naive that we don't know that. We're going to be calling all of that out very soon as I receive a report from the city manager, which I am requesting again. If they think that our voices are not going to be heard, they are mistaken. And that's not a threat. It's just that those people who are making decisions about the fairgrounds don't live in our district. I mean, our alderwoman might live in our district, but at this juncture, what does that mean? It means nothing because we've been fighting this battle for a long time. And I'm going to tell the whole story after a while. And I'm going to watch the answers come in. And I will not be intimidated because that is what we're hearing now, that some people are being intimidated. Well, that will cease because that police report is going to be filed. So I want everybody to tell their husbands and their wives that they need to stay away from things that they have no business meddling in. And I'm saying that very loud and clear on your podcast. I am. It's not a threat, it's a concern. When you stoop to a level where you have people to try to intimidate you, that's a problem. And it's a very serious problem. And it needs to be addressed immediately. And we're going to address it professionally and legally. And so I said it. And I hope the word gets back to everybody who's trying to do that. The election to city council and your husband and your daughters and whoever else, just know that you're not going to mistreat people to serve your purpose. It's not going to happen. That's what I have to say.
Yes, ma'am. That was a broad statement. Dr. Bryant,
I
you set
know.
that off.
I'm sure it was.
Well, and here's the thing, and Dr. Harris, I wanted you to share this piece as well. We were talking about accountability, and I believe if I'm correct, there was an agreement. So the fairgrounds has been a just mess anyway, and I don't mean I'm going to accountability. So that morning, I believe they told that the incumbent told the Fifth District Coalition, you know what, I think we should give you 2 more weeks. I agree with that. And then that very afternoon was bold enough and arrogant enough to move the vote forward and made the motion and talk about accountability. That's just in
Yes.
your face. I don't care.
Yes. Hmm. But you see, our residents need to know all of that. Yes, we asked for more time because we didn't even know the vote was coming forth. And I was alerted to it before it came forth. And I started sending messages and I started talking, and we asked weeks just so that we could understand, find out what was going on. We're the people who should know. And because there are certain entities in our city who want to position themselves to do what they want to do on that fairgrounds, well, you don't even live in the fifth district, but you want to have voice in what is happening in the fifth district. And of course, we have written documents of what we submitted. It's documented, and anybody can ask for it. We were asked what we wanted to go on that fairgrounds, and we sent our message in. And since that time, everything that we've done has been misconstrued, turned around to where we don't have any voice at all. But that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. We have lots of voice. We just have to raise the awareness that our voices matter. And our voice does matter. Now, if we're quiet, subdued, and never say anything, then they can do what they want to do. But I'm here to say it's not going to happen because we worked hard and met often to say what we wanted to go in our district. And for those people who don't live in our district, oh well, you can talk to us, but you're talking to the wrong person. And I'm telling you that right now, you're talking to the wrong person. So it's been a debacle. It still is. We don't know where it is, but I'm about to find out.
Yeah, and the reason I want to share, Mr. Irwin, I have that shared, is when we talk about accountability, we've got to stop relying on other people to tell us "quote unquote" truth. It baffles me how we have YouTube and Google, but yet we rely on word of mouth. I had a forum last night, and I presented information that was written by a scholar that tells us 37% poverty on average in a district, right? That's triple the national average. But yet, because somebody might tell you that ain't true, you believe the person, the very person who don't even know how to do their own research. So I want people to realize you got to get out here and get the information yourself. We are no longer. So people always ask the question, where are the Dr. Kings and where are the Malcolm X's and where are the Jesse Jacksons? You are those people. You have that power in yourself to go do the research, to utilize your voice. But are we willing to take the time to do that? And that's the question.
I think that's a real correct statement. You know, we don't have people who want to stand up in the battle anymore. We have about 8 minutes left, y'all, and in fact, we don't have 8 minutes left. About 6 minutes left. Dr. Harris, I'm gonna let you close out, and then I'll close out once Dr. Bryant finishes. Dr. Harris. Oh, we lost it again.
That's okay.
Okay, so what is we need to go vote.
No, we're saying we got 2 minutes to close out.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay, I'll go ahead and then we're going to go ahead and close it on out. I'll go ahead and then we'll. So what I want people to remember, if nothing else, if it had not been for voting, if it had not been for John Lewis getting his skull broken, if it had not been for Martin Luther King being assassinated, if it had not been for Malcolm X being assassinated, we wouldn't have public housing. We wouldn't have voting rights. We wouldn't have access to resources. We wouldn't have anything but a cotton field and a shed to live in. And so as a community, we got to take voting seriously, because if we don't, as we see, the thing about abortion rights being rolled back, it wasn't just about abortion. It was about the right of being a citizen in this community. It was about civil rights. And so we don't start taking that seriously, that which we are accustomed to will become taken away from us. So don't take it for granted.
Then, if we didn't have people like Asa Philip Randolph, who wasn't scared in order to stand up for our people, create a union for the Pullman Porters, stand up to the President of the United States to desegregate the military. It's people like that makes voting necessary and make it worthwhile. And we just have to stand and continue doing it. So, Savannah, Georgia, this is the A. Philip Randolph Institute. This morning, we are bringing you the vulnerable communities. And we are here this morning, and we had Dr. Robert Bryant, Dr. Pat Harris with us this morning. We want to thank both of them for being here with us. They stood in the gap for someone who couldn't make it this morning. But we look forward to seeing y'all next Tuesday morning, 10 o'clock. Until then, peace be with you.
that. I like 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 that.